From Atlanta, Georgia, welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast for women on leadership and life skills with Rhea Story. Rhea shares powerful life and leadership principles, helping you maximize your potential and become the woman God created you to be.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode on intentional thinking. This this is probably one of the subjects that I think we don't spend enough time thinking about. Quote, no pun intended. But um, literally, I would ask people to think about how much time do you actually spend thinking, intentionally thinking about where you are now, where you want to be, and how you're going to get there. And most of the time, when I ask people that question, the answer is little to none. Like, when was the last time you actually sat down for a dedicated length of time? No distractions, no cell phone, no emails, no one else talking, no TV. Just sit down and really think deeply about where you are and where you want to go and how you're going to get there. Because I think a lot of times we kind of get in just the routine of accepting life by default. And it's easy to do. We've all certainly had seasons where we may feel like we're just going through the motions. But if we want to have an intentional life, intentional living begins with intentional thinking, right? If we want to achieve certain things in life, then we need to spend some time thinking about how we're going to make that happen. If we have things that we want to improve in our lives, personally or professionally, we need to spend some time thinking about that because our mind is an incredible resource. And at the end of the day, we are the only ones who can truly know all of the things about our situation. We're the only ones who can truly know where we want to go, what that looks like, and how we would define success. But that means we're also the only ones who can figure out exactly what we need to do to move forward. Now, sure, somebody else can help us. You can have a thinking partner. Maybe it's just a conversation with a friend. Maybe it's a personal growth, a leadership coach. Absolutely, those people can help provoke thought in us. But at the end of the day, we have to be the ones to think about it. And as I look back, I can see so many times and so many patterns in my life where when I was getting the best results in a dimension of life was when I was spending more time living with intention in that dimension of life. Um, whether that's emotional or physical or spiritual or social, the more I spent actual time in intentional thinking, the more successful I became in that dimension of life, in that scenario. Every single time I can look back and just see the pattern. So, my point here is that, you probably too can look back and see the same pattern. I mean, it's normal that we go through sort of a season, but I would challenge you that right now in this very minute there's something that you might want to improve about your life or your situation. Sit down and think about it. I mean, put a date on your calendar with yourself like I'm going to spend 30 minutes on Saturday morning really thinking deeply about how to get the job that I want. What job do I want? Sometimes we need to back up and start there. What do I want? Maybe you need to spend 30 minutes on Saturday morning thinking intentionally about your health goals. What do I want for myself? How would I define being healthy for myself? Why is it important? And maybe it's not Saturday morning. Maybe the kids have ball games on Saturday morning and you're like, "Ah, I just cannot get up any earlier on Saturday." Well, fine. Then do it Sunday afternoon or do it Monday morning. But just do it, right? Because intentional living begins with intentional thinking. I love the book Today Matters by John Maxwell because he guides you through um, sort of 12 areas and helping you maybe identify what success would look like in these areas and then helping you think about some habits to change to start being more successful in these 12 areas. And that kind of stuff I enjoy because it sort of helps keep us accountable to that intentional thinking, right? But I think that the whole concept of his book was little habits build up over time lead to great things. And I absolutely believe that. I've seen that over and over and over again. And you've heard me say it before, consistency beats intensity. But that all starts with intentional thinking, intentional planning, right? That's the essence of intentional living and living on purpose, with purpose, and not just drifting. If we are just drifting through the motions, we get up and go to work, and then we come home and we're not getting the results that we want, we don't have anybody to blame but ourselves. And I know it's very easy to kind of get into the grind, and then you're tired when you come home from work. You don't want to spend time reading or thinking. Well, do it before work, right? If it's important to you, then you'll figure out a way to make it happen. And if it's not important to you, you'll make an excuse. So the funny thing that I had a conversation recently with somebody, and this person is she was relating to me that she was not really satisfied with every dimension of her life because she was just so incredibly busy. And I have no doubt she's busy. She is a mother of three, and when you have three little people depending on you, no doubt you are busy. I mean, you are responsible for everything from school lunches to laundry to getting people to practice on time, getting the groceries. And she also has some elderly parents, and there are some things that need to be done with that in those relationships. And all of that to say, I have absolutely no doubt that she is incredibly busy. But this person was not happy with some of the aspects of her life, and she was using busy as an excuse. Well, I just don't have time for a lot of extra reading or anything like that. And there's some days when I feel like I don't really have enough time to even exercise, and it's hard to squeeze it in between dropping the kids off at school and getting groceries and then picking them back up from school. And it's absolutely fine. I'm certainly not judging this person for where they are. But my point is, they were saying, what, hey, I'm too busy to focus on getting the results that I want in this dimension of my life. Well, what was ironic was just a few minutes later, they were relating to someone else, not me. Um, they were discussing a series of TV shows that they both had been watching. Now, I can't even tell you what the TV shows were because I don't really know what TV shows are out there because I don't watch TV shows. But I listened to that conversation. I just overheard a little snippet of it as we were all together in the group, and I just had to think, if this particular person was just talking about how they wish they had more time to do certain things, they wanted things that what they wanted to achieve, and yet they obviously had plenty of time to watch lots and lots of TV shows. I mean, this was like a series of several different shows that they were discussing. Like, oh, have you seen the fourth episode of the fifth season of such and such a show? And oh gosh, I watched all seasons of this one, and now I'm gonna have to wait till next year. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with TV. But if you are looking at your life and you are not satisfied with some area of your life, and you're spending 20 hours a week watching Netflix or Prime or Hulu or whatever, then I would challenge you to say you could maybe spend less time on the TV and start spending some of that time in intentional thinking. Now, absolutely, we all need time, downtime. We need recreational time. We need to do some fun things or relaxing things or maybe time with our relationships and our family. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're not happy with where you are, you're the only one who can change that. And you're going to have to sacrifice some things in order to do that. I have no doubt that it's much more fun to sit on the couch and watch some great TV shows instead of sitting down and doing thinking. Thinking is hard work. The reason your brain doesn't like to do it is it takes a lot of energy. And your brain is hardwired to say, hey, let's conserve energy, right? That's just a physiological defense mechanism. Your brain says, hey, let's take the easy way out because thinking takes a lot of calories. Your brain uses like 300 calories a day. I read that somewhere. And so your brain is like, "Hey, let's take it easy. Let's don't spend any extra energy on thinking." It's just a natural self-defense. But when we do, we can find so much that we can tap into the power of our mindset and figure out how we can do more with what we want, right? It's one of the things I say. We can, if we want to make something happen, we find a way, and if we don't, we'll find a way to make an excuse. But you can't make something happen if you're making the excuse. So regardless of where we define success or where we're not satisfied, we always want to be grateful for what we have, but not satisfied to stay there, right? Not satisfied with status quo. And I know there are things inside all of us that we would like to improve. And I touched on this a little bit in the last podcast. But when I'm talking about intentional living, I'm talking about it starts with an intentional thinking. And I like to do that in the morning. You've heard me talk before about my morning routine. Morning works really well for me. And even on the days when I have to get up super early to go run, I get up a little bit early, extra early, and just so I have time to think about my day and what that's going to look like and to set myself up for success. And maybe not everybody is a morning person. That's okay. You can stay up late and do it. You can figure out in your schedule what works best for you, but you got to do it. Spend some intentional time thinking. And the benefits are just exponential because it's the thoughts that you have that are the solutions, the ideas, the creative parts of success that will help move you forward, right? It's almost like we have to get into that rhythm, that mindset on a regular basis, I think, to really tap into that potential. But even if it's just a few minutes a day, like sit down and make sure that you have some time to think about things. If you're struggling with a particular problem, how much time have you actually spent thinking about it, really thinking about it, not just worrying about it, not just playing it over and over in your mind and focusing on the things you cannot control, but actually sitting down with a blank piece of paper and a pen and brainstorming on the solutions for resolving it. And you may surprise yourself. It might take a few minutes, but I think a lot of times we give it a minute or two and then we give up and we go on to something else, right? We have to almost do this on a regular basis because it helps us train our brain to say, oh no, when I sit down to think, I mean business. Now, maybe sitting down isn't the best thing. I find that some of my best thoughts come while driving. Don't ask me why. And I don't mean driving like through stressful, heavy traffic. I mean, like, driving on the interstate or something like that, where my body is doing something, but my brain is kind of free to think. Running. This happens a lot while running or walking for me, where I'm doing something physically, but my brain is kind of freed up and on. You know, I'm not really having to think very hard about what I'm doing. And so that's some of the best ideas and the best thinking time for me. And it's almost like, particularly walking, if I'm going walking, I almost have to have my phone because I know I'm going to have some good ideas, some, oh, I need to do this, some aha moments, and I need a way to capture them because I may not remember them otherwise. So I have to have something where I can, jot a note to myself in my phone or some way to capture it. And, there again, if you find it works better for you to be exercising and thinking, that's great. But just making sure that you're protecting that time because it's an incredibly powerful process. Your brain is, I mean, it's basically like this supercomputer, right? And it can solve so many things for us if we just use it, if we think about it and if we apply it. Now, we do have to go do it. Like the best idea in the world isn't going to help you if you don't go do it. But a lot of times we won't think about what's holding us back. And so we never are able to overcome it because we haven't sat down and thought about it. We have plenty of time to ask other people for advice, but we haven't necessarily thought about it for ourselves. And sometimes that's the best thing in the world is actually sitting down, cutting out the distractions, and intentionally thinking about what intentional living would look like. Now, relative to whether that's on the personal side, again, with so many dimensions with your personal relationships, your health and wellness, or time management, as in the case of my busy friend who's watching quite a lot of Netflix and Hulu, and I don't even know all of the streaming services out there, but Um, but they're most of the time we spend more time complaining about what we're not happy about than we do thinking about how to fix it and correct it and improvement. And that's a tragedy, right? It's easy to blame, it's easy to complain, but that never gets us anywhere. That doesn't move us forward in life. Until next time.
Start increasing your influence and maximizing your potential with Ria's audiobooks. Available at audible.com, amazon.com, and iBooks. Please visit riastory.com to learn about Ria's books, resources, speaking, and training programs. Thanks for listening.